Okay, hi, and welcome to our talk on initial velar nasal deletion in Wubuy, which is an Indigenous Australian language. In this language, the initial velar nasals of verb agreement prefixes are commonly deleted in speech, even in monitored speech. Like this example I can play for you now. So this is this word here, Bundgaard-Nielsen, and this is how it commonly comes out. Without the initial velar nasal. Now, this kind of phenomenon has been described for other Australian languages, in particular Bundgaard-Nielsen, which is a related language, but we still don't know very much about it. So we set out to try and investigate the factors that are responsible for this kind of phenomenon. Could it be, for instance, speech speed that's responsible? This has been cited as a major factor for other kinds of phonological and phonetic reduction processes, such as deletion. Or could it be something else? So we asked 3 speakers to put together some words of Wubuy for us involving an agreement prefix beginning in a velar nasal, 1 of 12 incorporated nouns, and 1 of 6 inflected verbs, like these examples over here. This was to investigate a different phenomenon altogether, but it turned out to be useful for investigating initial velar nasals as well. We asked the participants to produce these forms in 2 different ways. So firstly, they were asked to produce 5 reps slowly and then 5 repetitions quickly, on the assumption that speech speed might have something to do with the likelihood of velar nasals to be deleted. So we coded the utterance for the presence or absence of velar nasal in the prefix, and also 2 kinds of conditions. Firstly, whether the utterance was produced slowly or fast, and secondly, for the presence of a pause exceeding 150 milliseconds before the utterance. We also extracted the duration of all the supplied velar nasals and all of the prefixal vowels. And here's a table summarizing the frequency of deletion in the 2 conditions that we're interested in. Firstly, depending on speech speed, we find actually no significant difference in the frequency of deletion of nasals. But when we look at the condition of whether or not there was a preceding pause, we find indeed there is a significant difference in those 2 environments, sometimes quite a dramatic difference, as we see here for speaker 3 in the rate of deletion of velar nasals. We fitted a binary logistic regression to the results, and a chi-square test supported the statistical significance of the findings at quite a high value. Those were the reference levels, and what we find is that deletion of initial velar nasal is much more frequent for polysyllabic prefixes like nambul than it is for monosyllabic ones like na. Secondly, that it's much more common when there's a preceding pause in the environment than if there isn't. But whether or not the speaker was speaking quickly or slowly had no effect on the rate of deletion. So to summarize, initial velar nasal deletion in Wubuy is conditioned by preceding pause. It's largely an utterance initial phenomenon which occurs much less often within international phrases. As in Bundgaard-Nielsen, it's prefixes which are targeted, but different prefixes drop at different rates, and noun class prefixes, which can also begin in velar nasals, don't appear to be affected, and this is a contrast with Bundgaard-Nielsen, where they are. As a sound change then, this is lexically specific, and in particular, it targets grammatical morphemes rather than lexical ones. But it doesn't target all of them in the same kind of way. Some prefixes drop the velar nasal much more frequently than others. There's no trace of the erstwhile nasal. It doesn't lead to compensatory lengthening of the vowel, and it doesn't affect the formants in the way that we would expect if there was some kind of velar gesture still there. Wubuy appears to contradict several aspects of theories of sound change and lenition. The pattern isn't correlated with speed, but instead with prosodic position, and it's not prevented by potential for homophony or syncretism. So to conclude, there are still many aspects of this phenomenon that we get in Australian languages which are largely mysterious. There seems to be a kind of sound change which has been otherwise unrecognized in the literature. Thanks for listening.